Hello, Sergei. This is Umair. I'm the host at Better Tech, and this is part of our podcast shows where we talk to CTOs and other influential tech leaders like yourself and find out more about how they run engineering operation, what is about their current organization, and so on and so forth. So before we dive into our kind of show, how about you take a few seconds or a minute to introduce yourself, a bit of your background, and the company you're working with.
Yeah, sure. And first of all, thanks for inviting me. Really excited to be here, and hopefully it will be a great conversation. So about myself, I'm Sergei Ankin, and currently I'm CTO of Pipedrive, the well-known CRM, CRM built for sales people. By salespeople. So founders were actually originally kind of sales professionals, and they knew what struggles exactly salespeople have, right? And they wanted to build a productivity tool for salespeople. And I joined Pipedrive when it was already in the making. So they were already 3 years old. But still a startup. So Pipedrive got some seed round. We're around 20 people, 10 engineers, and I joined to start building out the engineering team. And now fast forward maybe 8.5 years, we are a unicorn company. We were acquired by Vista Equity Partners, private equity firm. We have over 900 employees. Over 400 of those are actually engineers. So it was quite exciting journey for me. But before Pipedrive, I actually spent another almost 8 years in Skype. And I joined when Skype was already part of eBay, acquired by eBay. But then again, Skype was also acquired by private equity out of eBay hands and then sold to Microsoft. So I saw it all.
So wonderful. And seems like you have tons of experience behind you being a product developer, engineer, and then a CTO of a unicorn. So that's I think that is all the ingredients for a wonderful conversation. So so I was hoping to talk to you about how to build engineering teams and how to really sustain them and engage them, and we'll come to that. But a little bit about my background. I'm by first degree or education as an engineer, and I coded softwares myself, and then eventually I moved into sales software. So I'm a CEO of a company as well. It's called Tkxel, and we are in the professional services business. So I do selling all the time. And your sentence actually got my attention. It said there's a CRM which is built by the salespeople for the salespeople, because we keep on looking for that kind of a product all the time. So, I mean, before we dive into building teams, why don't you take a bit of time and tell us more about Pipedrive, how it's different from the mega CRMs out there like Salesforce and maybe HubSpots and many other of the world, and how you are different and why you think it's really a cool CRM for salespeople.
Yeah, sure. So how it's different? I think first, Pipedrive had a very specific opinion how salespeople should do their work, and it was mostly around the notion that results in sales are coming from activities, right? So basically, without activities, you won't get to results. So it's a numbers game. But how to get to this numbers game is really, first step is to organize your process, to understand what is the process of selling, and it have to be a repeatable process, right? So that if you know how you sell to one customer, then you can also start scaling your sales department and sell to 10, to 100, etc. Right? If you don't understand your process, like you can't really scale it and you can't improve it, right? So when we're talking about process, it's really just different stages. how you make customers aware of your product, how you understand if it fits their problem, how you kind of make it fit to their purpose, and then how you close the deal, right? And every stage usually have should have certain number of customers in it, and you need to have an overview how many customers you have. You need to understand what the conversion rates from one stage to another, what activities you need to make to make this conversion happen. And once you have this process organized, you start getting numbers in, data in. You can start then thinking of what you can improve, right? Are you different? Are your numbers different, better or worse from the industry standards? Maybe you have a big drop off in terms of demos. Maybe you have different people performing differently in different stages of a sales process, right? So that gives you a tool to improve your sales activities.
So as they say that sales is essentially a game of pipelines. If you have your pipelines filled and people are moving from one stage of the pipeline to another, eventually some sale will happen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, but every other tool gives this kind of user experience these days where you can see your pipelines and you can see, leads moving from one stage of the pipeline to another. How Pipedrive is different? I'm just curious to know about that.
Well, we should probably start from the fact that Pipedrive actually introduced pipeline into the sales process.
Okay.
So Pipedrive was the original. It was the signature feature, having a sales pipeline. But there, one other important thing is easy to use, right? Because salespeople, when they use CRM, they actually don't sell, right? So the whole idea is to remove the friction, to automate the data capture as much as possible, so that salespeople don't have to kind of bang their head against the software, how to use it, how to enter the data, that it should happen very simply and automatically for them, and they can focus on what they are actually being paid for, which means interacting with customers, trying to understand problems, trying to solve these problems for the customer, etc. So I think that where we pay a lot of attention, how to make the tool easy to use, kind of self-servable and self-configurable, because if you think Salesforce, you can't actually implement Salesforce without hiring a consultant who will configure it for you. Pipedrive works out of the box. If you need some more additional features, you just can go and configure it yourself. So it's this ease of use and self service model is what actually made Pipedrive also very successful.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So you were mentioning that you joined Pipedrive and probably there were like 8 engineers to now 400 engineers. So walk us through that journey. I mean, how you build that team, and right now, more importantly, what is kind of team structure that you have within the engineering organization within Pipedrive?
Yeah, sure. So maybe what's important to understand, when I joined Pipedrive, my biggest nightmare, which I was continuously thinking of, was how not to become a bottleneck for the customer, for the company success, right? So I was thinking, let's say we are widely successful and there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of customers who want to use software, but one of the problems which may happen is that software doesn't scale, right? The architecture doesn't scale. Yes, we used cloud software, but still, like certain solutions, like they scale to certain number of customers, but then they are not scaling anymore. So that was one of the problems, how to solve it, what to solve, like how to scale the software, how to scale the architecture. And the other bottleneck which I was kind of foreseeing is the speed of development of the system, right? Because CRM is a very tight market. Like there are a lot of competitors, and the only way to win is continuously innovate, right? But to sustain the continuous innovation, you actually have to grow your team all the time, and that probably not people do not realize. But the longer and more software you build, the more time you need to spend actually maintaining the existing software, right? So effectively, every year, if you don't add development capacity, your speed of introducing new features, new software, will decrease over time.
And do you agree that production support teams and new feature development teams should always be separate? Otherwise, you always end up supporting product rather than building new stuff.
So we are solving it differently.
Okay.
I agree that people who are maintaining the software and those who are building new features have to be separate. But there is a different angle to that. If you want to keep engineers engaged, and you want, and because that's one of the problems I also had to solve, is how to hire engineers, right? Because right now it's a problem for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a crazy market, but when I started, maybe it wasn't such crazy 8 years ago, but still we had very interesting companies here in Estonia, where our one of the main development of offices. Like we had Skype still, and we had Bolt, the ride-hailing, like Uber competitor, right? And we had few others like Wise, which is former TransferWise. So they were also hiring engineers, and we were just a CRM company, right? Who wants to build a CRM when they can work for some exciting consumer tech? So one of the ways we attracted engineers was by giving them freedom and responsibility, right? So basically, we wanted engineers to be fully responsible, not only for the solutions we're building, but also what kind of problems they are solving for their customers. So basically, you need engineers to be connected with the customers or with the users of the application, and also be connected with this decision power of like what kind of problems we're going to solve for these customers. So that helps to keep people engaged. Mm-hmm. But for that, you need to create a structure within which, and processes within which these engineers are able to take these decisions. So we created a system where we create teams of cross-functional teams which are responsible for certain areas, functional areas within the application. And they have all the responsibility to take decisions of a product roadmap, of how much they spend on resolving technical debt versus implementing new stuff. But also within this team, there is a process where we like it's a stable team, right? But within the stable team, we create dynamic teams. And one of such dynamic teams is continuously doing maintenance. Okay. And then the rest are building new features. But people rotate between these teams. So that's why.
And that was I was about to say. So I was talking to one of our customers who was going through a similar problem, that because people do not want to carry on work in maintenance, they want to build new features. So now maintenance teams is essentially a rotation teams and everyone has to do this as a service. So people come, work in a maintenance team for a few months, and then they move on to build new features. So are you implementing a similar kind of structure?
Yeah, it's a similar, maybe we have it's very similar, but the responsibility of maintenance is part of this bigger team, right? So, and we call it tribe. And it's, let's say it's 20, 25 engineers. And this tribe is responsible for the specific area in the application. And this area consists of different software components. And this tribe as a whole is responsible for those components performing well and bug-free and no incidents, right? And depending on how many components this tribe is having, the size, for example, of this maintenance team is defined by the tribe itself. So one tribe may say, hey, we only need 5 engineers to do maintenance on continuous basis. And another tribe may say, but we have a big legacy application and we need at least 10 engineers. So as you can see, we're actually also giving responsibility and flexibility to the team, and through that they also feel the engagement and kind of feel this freedom and also responsibility to take decisions. We are not kind of deciding, like management, not deciding for the team how they should fulfill their responsibilities. Right?
So did you feel that by employing this kind of structures and by giving your team more freedom to decide and work on, it managed to keep the motivation high, kept people more engaged, and get you eventually more retention? Because even if you look at a lot of FANG, even their mean tenure is not very high. So people they have similar structures, but I'm interested in finding it out that how, I mean, this structure where you were empowering people, letting them make decisions, where did it really help you? Retention more, engagement more, motivation more? I understand it may help you in all of these, but where do you feel is the key benefit coming?
Yeah, I think it's engagement and retention of people, but it's not the only one, right? Like you also like people get bored, for example.
Yeah.
Working on the same topic for, let's say, longer than 1-2 years.
Yes.
And we are allowing actually people rotation not only within the tribe but also between tribes, and it can be also temporary engagement. So they can decide for one specific project. We call them missions, by the way. For one specific mission, they can join another tribe to help them build it, and then they can return to their home tribe. Or people can also take different roles. For example, each mission require to have a technical lead, right? But this is not a position. Even a junior engineer can say, hey, I want to try lead a mission, and he's giving such opportunity. So people kind of can try different roles, can try different and working with different people. And I think this is what keeps people kind of fresh and engaged in such organization.
So, I mean, is your all engineering organization pre-pandemic used to work out of the same office, or it was a distributed team across many regions and time zones?
As I mentioned, our main office is in Estonia, and it's a fairly small country, and we have too many successful technological companies. Today was just announced we have now 10 unicorns, which is for the like 1 million inhabitants is probably quite a large number. Because of that, we decided that we are also going to have multiple offices. So we have multiple offices. We have office in Lisbon, we have office in Prague, and here in Estonia, we have 2 actually offices in 2 different cities. So people do work in different locations. We try to co-locate tribes, but we also have cross-location tribes. So in that sense, again, we're very flexible. But obviously, it's more efficient to work in one location.
Okay. And during the pandemic, did you, resort to work from home? And not physically co-located kind of processes?
Yeah, I mean, when the world was suddenly closed, right? We had no choice. Everyone went to their home offices. Many people struggled because, like, having small kids and kids going to school, and then you have to school them. And now, instead of just walking to somebody's office, you have to create a Zoom call, and
Right.
like all this mess everyone went through. So people, I think, struggled. Some of them enjoyed being in the office, but as soon as it was possible to open the offices, basically when in summer, we opened the office, and let's say initially less, but now around 40-50% of employees going to the office, and the rest are in their home offices.
So two questions from here. Did you find any difference or difficulty when the teams were kind of not co-located and working from homes to keep them engaged, keep them managing them? Did you evolve any processes? How did you kind of sustain and grew your team during those times? And also, the second part of the question is, now that when the world is opening up and you are also asking them to come back to offices, are you finding any difficulties in convincing people to come back to office?
So to keep people engaged when everyone went home, and I would say maybe going home wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was this uncertainty, right? Uncertainty around what will happen to the world, what will happen to our company, etc. So we just created more frequent kind of get-togethers with the whole company. We at that time we were around 600 people, and instead of, for example, monthly company all hands, we started doing it weekly, right? So every week people knew that on Thursday evening there will be a company all hands, and we will talk about like everything basically.
So you over communicated. You try to over communicate rather than okay.
Yeah.
And now, are you facing any resistance? People coming back to offices, or it's
to be honest, we are not rigid about it. Obviously, people like some people feel they don't want to come to the office, and some people actually want to come to the office.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that too as well.
Yeah, I think it's important. Not, I mean, it's not that important where people work as long as they are engaged, right?
So in your experience, I mean, you grew a company or engineering team from, let's say, 8 to 400. Is growing a tougher part, or retaining and sustaining that growth and keep the engagement high over the years is a tougher part?
So for us, I think growing or adding more people, because we also kind of very selective, right? We just don't hire because we want to hire. We hire people who will fit based on their skills, but also their attitude and culture. So we have a kind of tough selection process, and obviously that puts certain limits on how fast we can grow. Or how fast we should grow, because also growing over certain number kind of ruins or put your culture, internal culture, at risk, right? Like if you have over 50% of your employees worked in the company less than 1 year, it creates a lot of kind of inefficiencies, create a lot of additional problems. Right. But I can also assume that if also, like, we haven't had a problem with retention, but if you also have a problem with retention, then it's twice as hard, right? Because you have to backfill, you have to train, and then you can also kind of fulfill the growth needs. So retention is number one, but yeah, then growth comes as a second.
So coming to the potentially the last couple of questions of this talk. So Pipedrive, to me, it sounds like a a great engineering team, a great engineering organization with a great culture. So let's say I'm a new hire and you are giving me a pitch that you have built a team which is highly sustainable, highly engaged. What are the few things that you would tell me about Pipedrive in terms of your initiatives of building a great team and keeping it together that can motivate me to join your team?
Again, I would say, and this is already a selection process here, right? But I would say that if you want as much responsibility and freedom as you can get, Pipedrive is a good place. And maybe the best example is that you join the Pipedrive, you get the possibility to deploy your first code changes within the first hour of your, after getting your accounts and getting your laptop, getting a bit of the education how this process is going, which is automated, by the way. It's just you just do the code changes. You will be able to see results of your work immediately and exposed to all 100,000 customers we have. So it's I think this ability to kind of influence the product immediately out of the gate is what, at least for engineers, is very motivating.
So I guess what I'm hearing is that the key to grow and build a sustainable team is to give them a lot of freedom and responsibility and show them that whatever they do, the impact is going to be immediate in terms of what they're building. So these are some of the key ideas I've got from you. So, Sergei, it's great talking to you. I would like to now close this podcast to keep it short enough for others to get entertained. But if you want to say some closing things, be my guest.
Well, I think for engineers, engineers currently, the people who can decide whom do they work for, right? So I think it's important to make these choices wisely and not to waste time in places where they cannot have immediate and significant impact on the customers.
Okay, sounds great. So Sergei, thank you very much for being on our podcast. It was an interesting discussion about building great teams and what it takes to really sustain that team. I hope everyone enjoys that. So thank you very much.
Thanks.